Hello. I've decided to start doing book reviews of books that relate to my work and have informed my thinking about rolfing. And so today I want to do a book review of Stephen Porges' Pocket Guide to the Polyvagal Theory, the Transformative Power of Feeling Safe. It's a book. Look, check my tabs. I've got loads from it. Polyvagal theory's been kind of kicking around for quite a while now, and it's kind of been building traction with lots of different therapists, and especially it's been used as a framework for working with traumatized people and helping people resolve and work their way through and out of trauma. I can't really, and I don't want to kind of get into explaining like the massive contents of the book, but as sort of briefly as I can, it tells a story, or it talks about there's three aspects of our nervous system. And all of them are mediated by the vagal nerve, or the vagus nerve. And some of it's really totally familiar. Like one of those aspects of the nervous system is our adrenaline flight or fight response, which, I think everyone understands. And then the second aspect is also in response to difficult and life-threatening situations, is one of shutdown and disassociation, and it's kind of much more when threat or fear becomes overwhelming. And I think, again, I think we have a familiarity with that, but Porges' book kind of gives it like a framework, gives it like a neurological framework towards understanding that, and it's essentially that shutdown, that disassociation where trauma happens, or trauma sort of has its genesis in those moments. And then the third aspect of our nervous system is really a felt sense of feeling safe, and everything that brings with it. So I think we're all really able to see and understand those, like the two I've just described, but we don't kind of settle into a sense of feeling safe. We don't go and go, oh, I feel really safe now. And one of the things that I took from this book is that you can do, and like creating safe interactions with people, especially in like a therapeutic setting, like setting up your space so it's safe, free from interruptions, and people feel safe within it, is only going to help your therapy. And so that sort of third aspect, that feeling safe, it's where the sort of richness of being human is. It's about social connection and creativity and art, and Stephen Porges like ties a lot of those things into his book, and it goes quite deeply into like physiology and the evolution of these three aspects of the nervous system, and it also looks at like kind of the conditions that promote or bring forward or create these three states. As an example, it looks at how institutions like schools and hospitals don't provide a felt sense of safety, and that they might be better institutions if they did. Just to read a quote which kind of is sort of suggests a rejection of Trumpian logic. Hang on. He says, for example, having a teacher carrying a gun, having a principal walking around school with a gun, may be a way of making schools safe from a legal point of view, but it certainly creates a context that the nervous system doesn't like to experience, which, I don't know, it's bloody obvious to me that people don't feel safe because they have a gun. It's like, or because they're around guns. It's one of those things. It's sort of, you can cultivate that sense of safety, or you can kind of put up walls and fences, and that in some ways create safety, but in other ways don't. So who's the book for? I think there's heaps and heaps in this book for like any therapist. And from like people doing talk therapy or body workers and massage. Excuse me. I think there's also, I mean, it could be for anyone. I think if you're interested in like making relationships work, in realizing how to, if you're maybe dealing with people in aggressive ways, or if you're confronted by people that are bringing aggression in your direction, you know, you have a choice whether to kind of get escalated up to their level, or see if you can settle them down to your level. And, you know, making human connection and talking and making eye contact are often ways that you're going to bring them down to a better place where a meaningful and useful dialogue can happen. So I think, you know, doctors, nurses, employers, managers of people could find it really helpful. Like anyone who wants to kind of bring the best out of people, and is going to get something from this book. It's not a self-help book. It is really just an explanation of the polyvagal theory. In a way, you're left to draw your own conclusions from the book. And I would have thought you'll find most people are going to find lots of insights with it. Negatives about this book, it is quite technical. If you're kind of coming at it cold, you're going to get hit by a lot of new information and kind of new ways that you might need to think. There's a lot of technical language, but in its defense, there's a very, very, very thorough glossary. And there's another thing, it's sort of like a plus, and to me also a minus. It's basically, the book's written as transcripts of interviews. And so it kind of, and they're interviews with different people, Stephen Porges being interviewed by different people. So it repeats occasionally, you know, kind of at the start of each interview to kind of get something going. But the style also makes it quite chatty and approachable. So, final thing I want to talk about, what I got from it and its positives. So, I got loads from it. I mean, like, I read it once and I put yellow and blue page markers in it, and then I read it a second time before making this video, and I put pink page markers in it, and it's eminently quotable. It just has some really kind of couple of sentences here and there that go, oh yeah, like the really, really rich, and he's really eloquent when he's talking about his work, and yeah, I really enjoy it. It's so what did I got an understanding of what's going on when we get overwhelmed, and why it's traumatic, or why it can lead to trauma. That we do actively, and we always did as kids as well. We actively seek out safety and connection, and you can kind of start to do that as an awareness exercise. You can go like, do I feel safe in this situation? In a situation where you kind of, it's okay to feel safe. You go like, do I feel safe? And it's a little bit like, and then you can go, well, no, that's annoying me, or, you know, and then you go, well, do you have to feel worried about it? Can I still feel safe with that thing that's troubling me? Yeah, maybe one to try in your home, or like in a place where you are safe. And so I think you can start to think of this as like an exercise in like, well, checking in with whether you feel safe, monitoring your sense of safety. As a caveat, I'd say if you kind of have a tendency towards anxiety, then you maybe need a way of controlling that, so like breath work or something. But I think it's curious to have this narrative of this sort of monitoring of yourself, of like, do I feel safe, and do I feel unsafe, and where do you physically feel unsafe, and, you know, guts, and these are the kind of places where we ignore. But I got a bit down a cul-de-sac. It's got like insights into some things like depression and anxiety and autism that I think is quite interesting. And like, you read it and you go, yeah, that's obvious, but it's sort of it's giving you a framework. It's one of those books that, in a way, is just it's very new, but it's also it seems like common sense as you're reading it. So, I mean, as an example, you could look at his idea of autism is that autism is, or people with autism are like prone to going to overwhelm and disassociation really quickly, and so training in sort of and so, yeah, your approach to them can be, to people like that, can be kind of to cultivate connection and try and give them non-threatening connection. And I think that the other thing that I got from it is it's like, I think with those like three branches of the nervous system, it's easy to see as like, you know, now I'm here, now I'm here, now I feel safe, and really it's I think it's much more dynamic, and I think you can have aspects of two at the same time, and I think it's much more of a continuum between those sort of three poles. We're not used to thinking in terms of three poles, but I quite like it. I think you know, you can have as I was sort of talking about that kind of monitoring of feeling safe. You can go, well, do I feel safe enough to kind of maintain social connection and all the good stuff that comes out of feeling safe. And as I've already said, it's like super quotable. Like, there's so many sentences and paragraphs that are just really rich and juicy, and yeah, I've got a lot from this book. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say, but I just wanted to round up with a quote, so bear with me a minute. Here we go. When we're safe, magical things occur. They occur on multiple levels, not merely in terms of social relations, but also in accessibility of certain areas of the brain, certain areas of feeling, pleasure, being expansive, being creative, being very, very positive as well. So there's a link at the bottom of the video. If you'd like to buy the book, you will help me buy more books by following that link to buy it. And I hope to make more of these soon. Thank you. Goodbye.